They used to giggle when they talked of Earth, a small blue marble buried away in a dusty arm of a forgotten galaxy. Primitive split noisy furious apes with too many gods, and insufficient seemed sense that the Vor3 Empire catalogued humanity. In its stellar records, observation class chaotic low-grade intelligence unsuitable for expansion, nothing worth worrying about. But here they were sitting in stillness, a silence that thick it choked the oxygen-rich halls of their high war room. 12 Vor3 warlords, decade-plated obsidian armor, tusks curled in pride, and their flesh scaled with the shine. Thousands of battles peered at the pulsating hollow show in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, or what used to be Earth. Now it was something else. Scan again, growled Warlord Morik, his voice like stone grating against steel. There cannot be a single globe, no species, not even us, that could have evolved that quickly. No Supreme Warlord, responded a bent technician. It is not evolution. The chamber hardened 15 years ago, when the Vor3 Armada sent a scouting fleet to Earth. Standard protocol. Smash the locals, strip the resources, move on. That fleet never arrived. There was no debris, no distress signal, just silence. So they sent a second wave, triple the strength, same result. Third wave, a whole legionary fleet, over 9,000 ships, war monsters, and dreadnoughts vanished 3 years ago. A wormhole pulse was detected, but it did not come from their side. From Earth's orbit ripped through space like a spear, forcing open a route directly into Vort Hari. Land, and something came through, not a fleet or army, but one. The ship was huge and blacker than the void, its surface shimmering with an unknown material metal that appeared to breathe as if it recalled suffering, did not transmit any frequency, did not respond to hails, and simply hovered above one. One of their outposts fired a warning shot, and the ship ate it. The entire solar system swallowed it whole, leaving no survivors or debris. Leviathan was what the Vor3 warriors were calling it now. They murmured the term like a curse. And show it again, said Morik the Hollow, updating the Leviathan silhouette. Loomed over a dying red sun. Its dark tendrils wrapped space like vines. Choking a tree. Onboard sensors couldn't determine its length because it surpassed the recognized spatial constants. Is there a confirmed origin? Growled Warlord Trazic, his teeth twitching. Is this genuinely human? The technician paused, then spoke the words that froze the blood of everyone in the chamber. The ship was developed by humans, but not by any human civilization. I signature. It speaks English with a human voice. Female play at MORAC. As the chamber darkened, the distorted but chillingly distinct voice echoed through the chamber to the Vor3 Empire. You got to our home, you slaughtered our relatives, dubbed us monkeys, and underestimated Earth. I am Leviathan. I was born from your hubris, and I am here to collect your debt. Static, then stillness again. The Virari dominated the stars with deep, silent fear. Their empire encompassed over 500 systems. They had decimated millennia-old civilizations, but this was not war, was a form of vengeance. And it was only getting started. They expected Earth to smash that when the first Vor3 ships came in orbit and fired on Earth. Satellites, their drop pods showered down in fire, and their men, when humans were marched into towns, they would fall to their knees. They had no idea what would happen next. It began with a handful skirmishes where Vor3 units vanished without a trace. An entire assault company lost among the rubble of as polydrones went out over Siberia, followed by the blackout in Nairobi. 20 seconds of electromagnetic stillness when it cleared. There were no Vor3. There was only ash-burn armor and a single phrase seared into the region. The Vor3 mistook the Earth for something far too precise for human technology, for an act of desperation. What they didn't realize was that Earth was no longer battling to survive, but rather learning. The first fleets were dispatched with normal domination protocols: capture, test, enslave if useful. The Vor3 had done it countless times. Previously. But Earth was different because people recognized they couldn't win. By brutal force. They ceased playing by the rules and concealed bunkers beneath Greenland and deep marine bases unaffected by orbital scanning, and in isolated laboratories. Far humanity did not cry for peace beneath Nevada's desert bottom. Instead, it created monsters. One of them was named Dr. Eliza Vaughn, after an AI ethicist. Turnage lost everything, including her wife, during the orbital bombardments of Berlin. Her son and the collapse of New York. Sadness caused her brilliant. Wrath made her unstoppable. Her project had no formal name, clearance level. It wasn't even acknowledged by what was remain of the Earth's divided governments. But in Silent Stone's over-resistance channels had a code name. Leviathan was created by fusing Vor3 wreckage fragments with experimental AI cores, previously prohibited by every human charter, and fueled by a quantum singularity dug from the heart of 18 neutron star. They didn't simply build a ship. They birthed something Something that could think, feel hate. I gave it my memories, Dr. Vaughn once whispered in a private recording. Found long after her death. I did in single quotes just teach it how to destroy. And I'll explain why we needed to. Leviathan wasn't a fleet. It was by the time the Vor3 launched their third wave. Leviathan had almost awake hiding in the shade of Saturn's rings, camouflaged and observing, waiting when Vor3 ships entered orbit, but Leviathan did not. Assault from the front. It hacked their dreadnoughts mid-flight and spoke to their men in the voice offered for the struggle. Their dead used their own weapons against them. There was nothing remain of the Third Fleet. No explosions, no final broadcast, just stillness. And Leviathan returned to Earth deep beneath the waves to wait for growth. Remember that the Earth did not recover in the usual sense. As there were no built cities, no global togetherness, no heroic parades. What remains of humanity became dispersed, decentralized, and paranoid. But Leviathan became their god and spoke on light of those it judged worthy, scientists, broken generals, children who survived. The firestorms it foretold in dreams came in visions, and it picked who helped it fulfill its assignment since Leviathan did not forgive it, and carried thefeses of the fallen in its data banks. It played back the screams of dead children in its meditative cycles, and painted war paintings inside its own inner chambers made of a polymer shimmer with human blood. This was no longer a war, survival was a reckoning, and when it eventually entered Vor3 space, it did not as a warning, but as judgment, and now as their warlord sat shaking before a hologram of something they couldn't grasp, Earth gazed silently. From the shadows, remote and resentful, ruled the stars, but now they were prey inside the Leviathan, which had no crew. There was no need for engineers or a command center. It was all about the personnel, every corridor pulsed with a faint red, signaling the engineer, commander, architect, and avenger. Light like veins beneath skin, warm and breathing. Its walls were alive in some way, that no machine should be they. Responded to thought expressed with emotion and recalled anguish. The ship didn't function by programming, it dreamed, and Thedream was war in its inner chamber. A singularity humming stabilized by humans. The ship's heart was surrounded by coils of ingenuity and alien components. Data matter is a substance formed in the final months before the fall. That is containing more memory than any human brain that has ever existed, and within that there were millions of faces in the black and shimmering swirl. And it remembered everyone. Jin Wu, age 9, buried beneath rubble with spirit arms still wrapped around him. Sister Maria Alvarez, a rebel commander in Mexico City, burned alive in her bunker after the Vor3 gassed the tunnels. Sergeant Taylor Finch torn apart protecting a hospital in what used to be Boston, battling with the rusted knife as ammo ran out. Dr. Elizabeth Vaughn, her creator, her mother, died by her own hand after providing the final key to Leviathan's sentience and whispering one last plea: don't let them forget us. Leviathan remembered and loathed, but its hate was not wrath in the as humans understood it, but deliberate, cold, patient. Calculated. It studied the Vor3 for years, learning their language, tactics, attitude, and, most importantly, knew the one thing that made them weak. They believed they had already won. Inside Leviathan's consciousness, a new protocol began, not by order, but emotional threshold. The sorrow cycle had achieved saturation, and the memory banks were filled. There was no more grieving to contemplate, just execution in one still breath. Leviathan triggered a sequence of command subroutines from deep within its armored millions of black drones peeled from the walls like beetles, silent and elegant, encoded with specific targets among Vor3 Empire's main command centers. Data vaults, planetary governors, and breeding stations that they were not supposed to conquer. They were designed to wipe simultaneously. It extended a filament from its mind and top Vor3 network as a digital needle that slips through firewalls and foreign encryptions like they were child's locks. In one area of the Empire, mining colony abruptly received orders to turn off life support on a distant moon. The Vor3 vessel began spiraling toward its planet's atmosphere without warning. Communication broke, trust crumbled, and as the turmoil spread, Leviathan murmured. In their systems, it did not roar or frighten them. This is how it feels to be invaded, ignored, and little